Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee was willing to make time for us this morning on this and many other issues as well. Senator, welcome back to the show. Good morning.
Good to be with you. Thank you. And we're delighted you're in D.C. helping celebrate the success of President Trump's first 100 days. And it's been a busy one, to say the least.
It sure has. I would tell you something that I had not heard. You know, I've been covering this not a terribly long time, but long enough to know that House Republicans and Senate Republicans don't always see eye to eye and don't always get along. I was on Capitol Hill yesterday, Senator, and I must say almost every House Republican, without exception, said they were very pleased with the way Leader Thune on the Senate side came over to sit down and talk with them, and they feel like they're really working with you guys on the Senate side. Is that your impression?
It is indeed, and we are working to get the reconciliation bill finished, which will make permanent President Trump's 2017 tax cuts. You know, Chris, if we don't do that, the American people are going to see a $4 trillion tax hike. It is going to cost nearly $2,000 for every single family. And you've got small businesses that are going to see even more of an increase. So getting that bill finished, doing that work before we leave for the Memorial Day break is at the top of our to-do list. In addition to that, President Trump wants to make room for no tax on tips or overtime or Social Security for senior citizens. So a lot to do there, and we are united in our efforts to pass President Trump's agenda.
There's a lot going on in Tennessee specifically, and we got a lot of audience in Tennessee, your constituents, that I'd love to highlight too. Ask you one quick question about the big, beautiful bill, if I may, and then we'll move on. I have a story from Politico, consider the source, that says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and we're going to hear from him, I think, live a little later today, set a new deadline for Republicans sweeping domestic bill, that big, beautiful bill, now saying Monday, July 4th. Do you know anything about that? Has the deadline moved? Is that because of the Senate? Because you and I, when we talked before, you'd once said you thought it easier to break this up into separate bills. Are we back to one bill, and does that mean it's going to take a little longer? July 4th, maybe?
Right now, what we're doing is going through what the rescission amount will be that will show some cuts into the baseline, and then looking for how much we can put into this reconciliation bill. Many of us want to go ahead and move it earlier and then take the second or the third bills and get even more of cuts into the baseline and tax credits and provisions that would help President Trump finish his agenda. The goal is to get this across the finish line, get these tax cuts made permanent, and then President Trump has so many good ideas that he has worked on for years that would lower the cost of living, that would lower the tax burden that people pay. Let's get as much of this done as we possibly can.
So just to be clear, that one big, beautiful bill, do you think we're targeting Memorial Day still, or has that in fact moved to July 4th? Do you think it'll take longer?
We would like to see this bill pulled together by Memorial Day. If we could pass it out of both chambers and get it to the president's desk, that is even better. If we have to come back after Memorial Day and finish it in June, we will do that. The goal is to get President Trump's agenda passed. Let
me talk specifically about some of the things in this first 100 days. Investment is coming back into this country, and I know Tennessee, you know it better than anybody. You just go visit Nashville alone, and it's not exclusive to Nashville, but the explosive growth in Tennessee is real.
It is indeed, and our economic development agency in the state has landed over 30 projects since President Trump took office. And you're talking about jobs that are coming with that, permanent jobs. You're talking about over $1 billion of capital investment since President Trump took office. Now, about half of that is direct foreign investment. So when you look at states like Tennessee, that no state income tax, no state property tax, a low cost of doing business, a state government that has been well led, well managed, then people are saying that is where I want to go to do business. Now, the one thing we are trying to do is get TVA to focus on nuclear power generation and actually take action on the approval they have for an SMR at Clinch River so that we can make certain we meet the power needs of companies, hyperscalers, and data centers, and people that want to come into Tennessee.
That's the Tennessee Valley Authority, for people that don't know, that supplies energy. And I mean, we know, Microsoft, Google, these big tech firms, they're literally starting their own nuclear power facilities to generate the power they need for AI. I assume that's what you're talking about in Tennessee.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It is. And of course, they can run off of gas turbines, but that is not baseload power. We need nuclear for that baseload.
Rand Paul said something interesting, that he is actually trying to move to get his colleagues, you being one of them, to join him in fighting against Donald Trump and tariffs. He says that should come from Congress, not from Donald Trump, and he wants to stop it. Do you support Rand Paul's efforts?
President Trump is using tariffs to get people to the negotiating table. And Chris, we have seen this, and I know as you've been here in D.C., you've heard it from people. We've got about 80 countries that are trying to negotiate not only tariffs, but trade deals. Now, we're going to get the framework of many of these in the next few weeks. It won't be months. Working out details are going to take longer, but you're beginning to see President Trump, as these deals are coming to fruition and as people are coming to the negotiating table, then you're seeing tariffs being lowered or moved to a reciprocal basis. The goal is to bring manufacturing and jobs back to the U.S., to revitalize our economy, to increase our wage growth, and then also to make certain that we lower the cost of living for Americans. Now, reciprocal tariffs are a way that we're going to do that, and I appreciate, of course, President Trump this morning talking about working with the auto manufacturers. We have Toyota, Nissan, Volkswagen that are all in Tennessee. And of course, they have component parts, engines, items that are coming from those countries. They're not USMCA compliant, but we did need to deal with that tariff structure around those. In addition, we have chemical companies, ag chemicals. We have electronics companies that are working with the music and entertainment industry, several areas that are going to need some type temporary relief, healthcare product companies that need that relief because they have been working since COVID to reposition their supply lines, keeping these critical supply lines open so that we don't have a COVID era shutdown in supply chains is going to be vitally important as we work through this.
So I assume you've expressed those concerns to President Trump. Your reports are that some of you Republicans quietly are saying to the White House, hey, knock it off on the tariff thing. Can you confirm or deny?
I would never speak for other members. What I can tell you is that we're working in a positive way in order to make certain that Tennessee companies and Tennessee businesses are going to be able to work their way and manage their way through these tariff and trade negotiations. And at Finance Committee, we're looking at international tax. We're also looking at taxation on companies that are moving back onshore so that these critical supply lines do not see disruption in future months and years.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, we are grateful for your time, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to join you. Thank you.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.